While Josh Giddey's contract still remains unsigned and we still are waiting to hear what his future is going to look like with the Chicago Bulls, once that order of business is done, all eyes shift to Coby White and his next deal. We've heard that Coby White wants more than $30 million. On today's episode, we're going to look at his case that he can make to get that $30 million. We're also going to dive into the mailbag as it is Mailbag Day. All that and more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content today, y'all. I want to talk about Coby White. All eyes are going to shift to Coby White. The last update we got in regards to Josh Giddey from Jake Fisher also included that Coby White has already kind of made it known that he is going to be seeking a contract above $30 million. And that was met with some questions from Bulls fans on if Coby White is worth that $30 million. Now, I had made the case and said before that when you look at it, most players now that are expected to be starters going into their new deals are looking for around $30 million contracts. Some, of course, less than that. Some a little bit more than that, depending on what they are. But you're starting to get to that point. $30 million is averaging about 15% of the salary cap. And if you go and look not at the monetary value, but if you go and look at the percentage of the salary cap that starting shooting guards typically make, it's right around that level of money, right? And so I want to talk about the case that Coby White has for that $30 million. We know that, you have the Bulls fans that think the Bulls shouldn't pay anybody while the team's in the state that it's in. And I can understand that, but again, I don't agree with it because I think you have to keep some talent around no matter what you're looking at with your team. And this team has already shown this front office. They're not going to be a front office that bottoms out. So I wanted to look at where Coby White really ranked amongst other shooting guards in the league. And I think the numbers are going to be surprising for some, especially the more Coby White doubters. And for some that are not, it may help solidify the way that you view Coby White. And so we'll talk about that. And one of the key things that we're looking at is, of course, once you go to Coby White, is a big part of that is going to be scoring, right? That's going to be a big part of what you look at when it comes to Coby White. And for Coby White, scoring-wise, he was the 10th highest scoring shooting guard in the NBA last season. And when you look at some of the players around him and what they're making, for example, Austin Reeves, another player that's already kind of made it known that he's going to be expecting a contract of over $30 million as well going into free agency. Coby White averaged more points than him. Coby White was behind Jordan Poole, Jalen Green, Jalen Williams, Norman Powell, Zach LaVine, Tyler Hero, Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker, and Anthony Edwards. What do all those players that are above Coby White, what are they all making? And I think that again is where you're trying, where you get into the place where Coby's and his agency can really make a strong case if they're deciding to do that, to try to talk about the money that's there. Norman Powell's another player who's going to be looking, we've heard upwards of $30 million on his contract extension with the Miami Heat, right? And Tyler Hero is another good one as well, because you look at the money Tyler Hero's making, $31 million, yet he's been on teams led by other players that have gone on playoff runs, and he stood up and played well in playoff games as well. And that's another thing. Here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to go ahead. Anybody who just wants to look at playing game and just say, oh, well, look at what they did in the playing game, that automatically means they're not. Players have to learn how to win in postseason success. They do. The Bulls haven't had the best roster around them. They haven't. I'm not here to say that Coby White doesn't need to be better in postseason atmosphere games. He absolutely does. But you're not going to dictate. There's 82 regular season games in the NBA. Yes, postseason accolades or not should factor a little bit into that, but they're not going to heavily, right? So look at Norman Powell, Tyler Hero. Norman Powell making $20 million currently. He's already kind of made it known that he's going to be seeking a contract over $30 million as his role has increased over the last few years. Tyler Hero, over $30 million. So when you start looking at these positions and what these players are making, of course, does he deserve to make what Anthony Edwards, Devin Booker, Donovan Mitchell are making? Hell no. In no way in hell. But I think when you factor in that Coby already top 10, he was top 10 last season in scoring at his position. And keep in mind, at the beginning of that season, you still had Zach LaVine here who was getting a large part of the shots, again, for whatever reason. But Coby White, top 10 shooting guard last year scoring wise. Then you look at his true shooting percentage. He was ninth in the NBA for shooting guards at true shooting percentage. So still ranking in the top 10 of his position. Assists per game were down to 12 last year. And again, shooting guards, it fluctuates, but I'm only ranking him amongst shooting guards. So all these rankings are amongst other shooting guards, not point guards. And he was 12th amongst shooting guards in assists per game. When you have players like Josh Giddey, of course, that assist number is going to go not be the greatest. In rebounds, he was 18th amongst shooting guards in rebounds per game. Again, he's out there with a really good rebounding team. You look at Josh Giddey, really good rebounder. Of course, Coby White's a good positional rebounder, but you still have Vooch in there for most games than not. Modest is a solid rebounder. So you're not on this specific team, he's not going to be very high up in the rebounds per game. Surprisingly enough as well, Coby White was in the top 15 as steals per game at his position. And then as far as turnovers, one thing that a lot of people make, and I saw in that last video, a lot of people were like, well, Coby White's so incredibly turnover prone. Amongst shooting guards last year, he had the 15th lowest turnover percentage, meaning that he was in the top 15 as far as turnovers per game, as far as in the good number of turnovers per game, not the high end of turnovers per game. That's where you want Coby White to be. And Coby White's become a more efficient scorer as time has gone on before. No doubtedly that this season is going to matter a lot with Coby White coming into this season as the primary scorer, right? Josh Giddey's probably going to be the primary half-court creator and things like that, but Coby's probably going to get the lion's share of shots. When you look at Coby, 20 points per game off 15 shots. He technically averaged more points per game, only one more point per game, on less shots than what he had the year prior. That's the type of efficiency that you want to see from a player. Now, a big part of Coby White and him rising in that is going to be the assists per game. He had the free throws per game. He had almost a free throw per game more than what he had last year overall, but he finished the season at almost 3 more free throw attempts per game than what he had at the highest point of his career. And how much of that can he maintain going into next season? That's why in my episode where I talked about something I want each starter to work on, I really talked about Coby White's him being more intentional about drawing fouls. A lot of times for Coby White, he does get to the lane, and then he turns around and he doesn't try to go to the rim. He does that awkward pass out. I want to see Coby White take those awkward pass outs, eliminate most of those. And there's still going to be some times where passing out makes sense, and actually try to draw some contact or just naturally try to finish around the rim. That's what I want to see for Coby White. But for a player that's never in his career averaged more than 15 shots per game to be where he is right now, there's something to say to that. For his career, he's averaged 12.5 shots per game and 15 points. Decent efficiency, not great. He's grown as a three-point shooter each and every year as well, and you like to see that also. So I think that, well, if you look combined volume and percentage, so that's going to be a big thing for Coby White also. There is a case for Coby White to try to seek that contract of $30 million. There just is. Objectively, there is, especially when you factor in the fact that, like, Tyler Hero signed his contract for $30 million when it was a much larger part of the salary cap structure than what it is right now. So that's what you're looking at when it comes down to it. And so we got to see what Coby's going to look like in that area, and maybe he can, get that money. Now, the Bulls they should do their due diligence and try to negotiate with Coby, whether it's including incentives to get to that $30 million or whatever else it is. But I'm here to just say that Coby, despite what some people will have you say, especially being a player that's 25 years old, that's going to be 26 years old when he negotiates his next contract in the midst of what should be his prime, he has a case to make for that $30 million. And that's what's going to what Coby's going to have to continue to prove. I said it before. If Coby White can get to 25 points per game this season, 25 points per game, I think that locks him in. That's probably going to solidify his case to get that $30 million. Last year, it was 20 points per game. Coby White was the 31st overall scorer in the NBA last season as far as points per game. He was tied for that amongst some other players, but again, tied for 31st. Now, if you're talking about a player in Coby White that can move up to more towards that 25 point per game area, that would put him, there were only 2 shooting guards last year that averaged over 25 points per game. So again, puts him in elite category. There are only 5 point guards that average over 23 points per game. And I think you got to really start putting that into like perspective per the position, right? And that's a lot about how a lot of these contracts are negotiated, is that you look at what the player did amongst their position group, right? And that's where that case is going to try to be made. And Coby's going to have to, Coby has an opportunity to do that. You look at 25 points per game would have put Coby top 10 in scoring in the NBA, in the overall NBA, not just amongst shooting guards. Now, that is a lofty goal. I want to be clear. It's not like it's an easy goal to hit to go out there and get 25 points per game, but I do think Coby's in a unique enough situation where he has a backcourt mate that, while Josh Giddey's going to look to score some too, his best attribute is facilitating. One of his best attributes. I think his rebounding is really good, and his just overall basketball IQ is amazing. But if Coby White can refine those parts of his game, and I think a big part to getting to that 25 point per game mark, it's important for him to be able to get to that free throw line more consistently. I think that was a big part of why he finished the season strong last year. So we got to see what Coby's going to do. But I wanted to have this conversation because I think there are people that automatically crap on Coby White. And I get it. Like Coby has had his miscomings, his shortcomings, absolutely, right? But when you look at a player that not only was drafted here, that his role has been wildly different year to year, there's a big case to be made for Coby White. And whether people like it or not, that's why I like to use objective stats and analytics. Objectively, Coby White's up there. And when you talk about true shooting percentage in the top 10, near the top 10 as far as points per game for his position, or he was in the top 10 points per game, top 10 in true shooting percentage for his position, there's a case to be made. And I get it that as a fan of a team that just watches a team every day in and out, it's easy to kind of only look, or the flaws are maximized while you don't watch other players enough. And Coby has a case for that. But let me know what you guys think on all that down below. It is Saturday. That means it is Mailbag Day. Let's get into these voicemails, man. This first voicemail, this one's from Reggie.
Hey, this is the person I'm calling, man. I wanted to call in about the trade idea of sending Patrick Williams and Devon Carter to Toronto, along with the first-round pick for RJ Barrett. I'd probably do the deal. In fact, I'd definitely do the deal because depending on what year that first-round pick is, like if they said we want it in 2029, done. That's how bad, Patrick Williams is, to the point where I'd be fine trading a first-round pick to get off Devon Carter and Patrick Williams' contract. And yeah, I know Devon Carter will be gone at the end of this year, but come on. Just him being on the team is a downer. But I can see, I know you threw out the possibility of him being in the starting lineup, but I think he'd be more effective coming off the bench because, like you said, defensively, Giddey, Coby, and Barrett would probably be a hard thing to watch, especially when you also got Patrick and Boots. But you put them on the bench, have it Trey Jones, Iota Sumo, RJ Barrett, with a Kevin Herter and Jalen Smith thrown in there. And it's not terrible. But he does give you that extra offense coming off the bench that the Bulls really don't have once you get past Iota Sumo, who can give you consistent offense. But, yeah, I know a lot of Bulls fans wouldn't like the idea of getting up future first-round pick for Barrett, but you could always trade him for another first-round pick later. That's just, how a good GM would do it. But, what's your opinion? Thanks.
The rumored RJ Barrett trade is interesting for a few different reasons because it's like, why are the Bulls doing it? Are they doing it to add a 20-point per game scorer to this team, which RJ Barrett would be, and to help gear them up for a play-in run? Okay, and I'm going to say play-in until we see if they can qualify for playoffs for the play-in run. Is it just to get off the long-term money of Patrick Williams, and then in that case, you're getting only 2 years of an RJ Barrett contract with more proven production? RJ Barrett is a better rebounder, better scorer. He's more production handedly than Patrick Williams, right? That's the question that it would be. And so we have to see what is going to be in that one. I think, but one of the questions there is giving up that first round pick. You mentioned like how far off is it? I think in the move it was the Portland pick. And that it gets to a place of being interesting only because of this standpoint, is that part of the reason the last build of this team failed is because we went in too early in giving up future assets, and we ended up needing those future assets. And we did that just to become a playoff team. I wouldn't necessarily want to see the Bulls do that again, like you said, unless the pick is far out. If you're talking about pushing the pick out to 2029, 2030, which we've seen some things done, maybe in that case, right? But then again, I don't know if a team does that. So, there's that aspect of things that you have to look at. But I do think that, it would be interesting because what are the Bulls trying to get out of it? As far as RJ Barrett coming off the bench, Reggie, you tripping. There's no way in hell RJ Barrett's coming here to come off the bench. I'm just going to tell you that right now. Yes, the fit with Coby White out there is a little wonky. The defense is going to be atrocious and questionable, but you're not making a trade for RJ Barrett to then turn around and put him on the bench. I don't believe that's what this team would do. RJ Barrett isn't going to come off the bench for this team. He's going to be a starter at that small forward position most likely. And again, it is some proven production. RJ Barrett has flaws, absolutely, but you're adding a 25-year-old player that's a 21 point per game player. And so, the question is, how does that take shots away from Modest? Does it take shots away from Coby? Are you putting Coby right back in the same situation that he was while playing with Zach LaVine? All those questions are 100% legitimate, right? And I want to be clear in that. But I don't think you're running into RJ Barrett coming off the bench. RJ Barrett has started every game but one in his NBA career. He's not coming here to come off the bench, bro. If that even happens. So I think that's a part that you got to look at for as well, Reggie. All right, let's move into the next voicemail.
Yo.
This one's from AI.
Yo, what's good, Hayes? AI kid here. I just wanted to check in with y'all. I see you had a new video up there talking about the potential All-Star that the Bulls can have. I agree with you. I think a lot of people sleep on. Josh Smith though, because I was watching his highlights in college, and when he was coming to the league, I just looked at him like he could be the next Anthony Davis. I don't know if I'm tripping. I don't know, but something told me if he put his head to it, he could be that next guy. But I think once he got in the league, he didn't think like, I don't know if the money got to him. I don't know what happened. I think he got the P. Will effect, kind of, sort of. He got lazy. But I think if he could tap in, get a little bit more dog in him, rebounding defensive-wise, that could open up his aggressiveness to want to get more, want to be the greatest again. So I think it's a potential All-Star in Josh Smith if he could just lock in and get his mind right. I also wanted to tap in with you on the Coby White situation. I don't think Coby White is really gonna trade. I don't think Coby gonna be traded. I think the Bulls' top trade prospects is probably, just based off of the contract, is P. Will, Nikola Vuce, and who is it? Kevin Herter. I think those are the top three prospects who the Bulls gonna try to move. Oh yeah, and Collins. Collins could be moved too. They all got some pretty crazy contracts and not worth it that they could probably get something off of. I think we're gonna probably expand Coby and Ayo just to see, just because we're not ready and we just want to have somebody that could potentially see what they could blossom into. But sure, let me know. Nice talking to y'all, man.
My boy said Josh Smith. I'm going to assume that you mean Jalen Smith and not Josh Smith. I'm going to assume that because we don't have anybody named Josh Smith on this team. But for Jalen Smith to be an all-star, first of all, Jalen Smith would have to average over 15 minutes per game. He had to first get into the area of actually getting consistent minutes for this team, which, again, because of Billy Donovan, he doesn't. He averaged 15 minutes per game last year and played 64 games and only started 2. And with still Zach Collins and Nikola Vucevic ahead of him on that depth chart to start off the season, even maybe Noah Essengay is going to be somebody that eventually is going to pass him up. I don't think that Jalen Smith has any chance of being an all-star anytime soon. I get what you're talking about as far as the potential and stuff like that, but Jalen Smith being an all-star, there's no way in hell he's an all-star. Unless things have gone terribly right or terribly wrong, depending on how you decide to look at that. Now, as far as Coby White and Ayo, I do think that both those guys are going to be back. That's just my personal opinion. I think that, with us hearing that the Bulls have turned down trade requests for Ayo Dosunmu, they view Coby White as a foundational piece. Now, you could say those things to help the trade value, absolutely. So I'm not going to be, remiss in not recognizing that. But I don't think that I just get a feeling that they're both going to be back, and I'm perfectly fine with that, especially with where the state of the team is. And we shall see. Now, the part that's dangerous about that a little bit is that they're going to have to go to unrestricted free agency. We can't extend them. Well, we can technically extend them, but because of the extension rules and how they won't make it so much money, you're looking at them going to unrestricted free agency. And like I always like to say, once a player goes to unrestricted free agency, as much as it may seem like it's most likely that they come back, as soon as other teams can make calls, if they take those calls, you just never know. It's a crapshoot. So we'll see what the future does hold there. But good voicemail there, AI. All right, let's get into the next one, man. This one's from Shay.
What's up, Hayes? It's Shay. Look here, man. Look, I know this is a crazy question, and it's probably rhetorical, but do you think if Patrick Williams had lived up to his potential, or even a smidget, like maybe 12 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists a game, do you think that guys like Montes Buzelis, Noah Senge, or hell, I even say Isaac Okoro, do you even think right now we would even be in a certain situation that we were in if he had just developed? Now, look, I know AK is going to do what he wants to when it comes to draft picks and all that, but let's just be honest. Besides the bad decisions, a lot of this roster construction would have been avoided if only Patrick Williams had stood up and tried to at least reach half of his potential. Now, I know what people are going to say. Oh, AK made bad drafts and bad signings. That's true, but if he had to reach his full potential and show that he wanted it more, we probably wouldn't even need Isaac Okoro, Nora Senge, or hell, we probably would have never have drafted those guys to begin with. If Patrick Williams hell, maybe even Modest wouldn't have even been on our roster if Patrick Williams had to show that he wanted it more. But that's just me. Anyway, tell me what you think. Peace.
I mean, I think if you look at it, if P. Will turned into what this Bulls front office hoped that P. Will was going to be when we drafted him, it's a completely night and day different story of the state of the team. I don't even know if we're in position to draft Modest Buzelis or Noah Essengay if P. Will ends up turning into the player that the Bulls hoped he turned into. But at the end of the day, it's woulda, coulda, shoulda. Like at this point, I don't even know why we're spending any more time worrying about what would have happened if P. Will did this. He didn't do it. He didn't do it. Now, if you want to have a conversation on is there a chance that he could surprise? There's always a slim chance of that. But I think at this point, if P. Will's going to turn into anything more than a role-playing defensive 3-and-D player, it's probably going to have to come him going to change the scenery. Just in my personal opinion, I think when you look at what the Bulls have done with Modest, with Noah Essengay, with Isaac Okoro, even having Kevin Huerter here, like that 3-4 position, they have a lot of people that are contending for minutes. And that I didn't even mention Dalen Terry, Julian Phillips, maybe even Jalen Smith if Billy Donovan decides to play him a little at the 4. There's a lot of players contending for that the minutes at the small forward and power forward. And if Patrick Williams, I think what the Bulls have shown here is that it's sink or swim for P. Will. It's no more, nothing's gifted to P. Will. He's going to have to come in here if he wants that position and want those minutes. He's going to have to outplay those guys that are ahead of him. And we'll see if he can do it. But the woulda, coulda, shoulda, I'm done with that on P. Will. P. Will is who he is at this point until he proves otherwise. All right, let's get into the last voicemail for today. This one's from Vikram.
What's up, Hayes? It's Vikram. I'm just here to be like, what the fuck? Why do the Kings have more nationally televised games than the Bulls? I get it. The Kings are like better, whatever. They got DeMar. They got Sabonis, and they got like Levine. Like, come on. The Bulls are a way bigger market. We have Giddey, who gets like all of Australia to tune in. I really don't get how the Kings. Who else? Atlanta, sure, they got more. I get why they got more. But like the Kings, the Phoenix Suns, like you're telling the Portland Trail Blazers, are you serious? They got more nationally televised games than the Bulls. Are we that irrelevant? Like, damn, that sucks. I really thought Chicago, what? We get the most seats filled, right? Like the most best attendance. But we don't get like any more national televised games. Is it 3? And apparently 2 of them are like on streaming services. Doesn't that mean like that's not even like actually nationally televised or something? Like that's crazy. yeah, I don't know. I guess I gotta buy League Pass this year or use Stream East or something. I don't know, but yeah. Also, if they really if they want to cater to like to the world, like how would you not cater for like Josh Giddey? He's like the biggest guy in Australia. Whatever. Yeah, I usually don't complain that much about on these calls, but like, yeah, that kind of pissed me off. Whatever.
Yeah, the national TV games are harder to come by. I think when you look at the balance of the national TV games, of course, it's going to go to the young, up-and-coming teams, the proven teams, the better storyline teams. And while you said, like, Josh Giddey's a great international player, you got to keep in mind, those international fans, they probably have to watch on League Pass anyway. So it's not like the U.S. national broadcast is really going to bring something to them per se, right? So I think those are things that happen there. But keep in mind this, and this is what I said over on Locked on Bulls as well. The way that the NBA's new TV contract worked is every game can be flexed. So that means that if over the season the Bulls do, after the strong start of the season, I mean the tough schedule to start with, if they look like a team that's going to be performing better than the NBA thought, either the networks or the NBA can flex those games, and then we can get more national TV games. The other could be true as well. If the Bulls end up flailing, and then they can take some of those national TV games away. I think that's just, it is what it is when it comes to that. The Bulls are going to have to show and prove. Yes, we are a historic franchise. Yes, we sell out the arenas. Yes, we're one of the highest selling teams as far as merch-wise, and we do that without, being on a lot of national TV games. And that's part of also why the NBA looks at that. They're like, well, we're going to get our merch revenue regardless because the Bulls are the Bulls. So, that plays a part into it. But I think if the Bulls come out and they show and prove on the basketball court, we'll get more national TV games this season because they can be flexed. But that's great voicemail there, Vikram. Great voicemails to everybody. Thank everybody for tuning in. Make sure you guys are following us at Shy Bear. Nope, wrong podcast. You guys can follow us at Bull Central Pod. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you ready if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.